How yins doing? Yeah, Mario sucks. I want to play a real game. Something hard. Something no one talks about. I want to play Kid Icarus. Kid Icarus is one of those games that everyone has heard of, but nobody cares. It has a small fan base and it hasn't received a new game in 10 years. Let's start with Kid Icarus on the NES. Like every NES game, it's not gonna tell you a story, you have to read the manual for that. So what actually happened? Gods and man lived together in harmony, and there was this magical place called Angel Land. This was ruled by two goddesses, Palutena, who administered light, and Medusa, who administered darkness. Palutena gave man the light to grow their crops, and Medusa dried up their crops and turned them to statues. So, it was clear who was the favorite goddess. In her anger, Palutena turned Medusa into a hideous monster and banished her to the underworld. So Medusa formed a coup and took over Angel Land. As you do. In doing so, she took the three sacred treasures, the Mirror Shield, the Arrow of Light, and the Wings of Pegasus. Palutena herself was then imprisoned in the Palace of the Sky. In order to defeat Medusa, she put her trust into a random kid angel named Pit, who was being held prisoner in the underworld. She gave Pit a magical bow and a magical arrow. Magically. He escapes, and this is where our story begins. Kid Icarus is a platformer released on the NES, but instead of scrolling to the side, you actually go up, which is pretty interesting and uncommon. In games like Metroid, you get some parts going up or down, but not really an entire level or a world. You are then introduced to doors. Doors are apparatuses that help lead you into a different room. There are rooms like shops, checkpoints, enemies' lairs, shops, endurance tests, enemies' secret stashes, shops. However, I ran into an issue where I have nowhere to go. I can't physically jump through the rock to get to the platform. What am I? Magic. You will get many items on your journey, like a harp that turns enemies into hammers, barrels that do something, and a credit card. A f***ing what? What is he supposed to do with this?
Welcome to ancient Greece, where currency is forged by the gods.
Yeah, I like to use credit.
Sorry, Pip, I can't give credit. Come back when you're a little, richer.
But the most important items are the special weapons you get for completing the endurance test. You'll either get a fire arrow, which is self-explanatory, protective crystals, which has two orbs circling around you, and a sacred bow to raise hell in the underworld.
You do realize the underworld is like hell, right?
Can you shut up? I'm trying to make a Doom reference here. Alright, I've gone on long enough without actually talking about the game. It's hard. You will die. A lot. And for dumb reasons like an enemy touching you or not being able to scroll down the screen. You can go down in Metroid and this is running off of the same engine. Why can't I go down? I progressed through World 1 until I get to the boss level. These are very different as they are a maze of rooms instead of a straight path, and here's something the game doesn't tell you. This is the only level you can use the hammers on these angel statues to free them so they help you with the boss fight. But they are actually f***ing useless, so don't bother freeing them. There are special rooms like a hot spring that completely heals you and special enemies like eggplant wizards that turn you into a pumpkin, I think. The first boss is a two-headed dog and is complete bullshit, but killing him gets me one of the sacred items. World 2 is the overworld and is side-scrolling this time. Nothing much happens except for these to steal your items. The World 2 boss is a snake that jumps around, but once you kill him, the ground turns into a hot spring. Nope, actually, it turns into very acidic piss. World 3 takes place in Skyworld and has the best music in the entire game. It's still all the same though. You scroll up until you get to the boss, which is a bubble this time? With the three sacred treasures secured, Pit equips himself for the final battle, where now you can fly. The level keeps looping until you've dealt enough bloodshed for Medusa to finally show up, who was the easiest boss in the entire game. You literally go up to avoid the snake, go down to shoot, and then go back up. The sonic wave can't hit you because of the shield, so you just repeat the cycle until she's dead. Palutena turns Pit into a man, and that's the end of the game. This was a surprisingly good game. Kid Icarus is not the best thing to come out of the NES by far, but considering they made the game in 4 months, which is an accomplishment in its own right, it came out better than most NES games. It is a relatively short game, with the only thing adding time to the gameplay is the difficulty. And it is difficult, but that's what makes it so fun. The gameplay is very repetitive, as the only thing differentiating the three worlds is whether you're going up or right, but the lore is insane. The humor was on point, considering Toru Osawa, the creator of this game, wanted a serious Greek-inspired game, which helped out the humor dramatically. By having a serious scenario and then putting in random objects that don't belong or absurd enemies, you get a comedic relief from the seriousness. Overall, this is one of my favorite NES games, with its only flaws being too short and too difficult. And after 4 short years, Kid Icarus got its first sequel. Only in America and Europe though. Kid Icarus of Myth and Monsters was released on the Game Boy and actually gives you a story. This time, instead of Medusa forming a coup, Palutena just has a nightmare of a villain destroying Angel Land and destroying humanity as they know it. Upon searching up her horoscope, she learns that this villain's name is Orcos. She immediately calls Pit, who is no longer a man, because the last game's best ending is non-canon. Palutena tells Pit to get the 3 sacred treasures and get some gains. The game is just like the last time, a side-scroller with doors. It has the same rooms it had last time, except in empty rooms they actually give you hints and secrets. Another interesting thing is that the levels loop instead of Pit just appearing on the other side of the screen. You can go down! They fixed it! You can go down! Automatically this makes this game better than the original. However, as I said, the game is exactly the same, so here are the differences I could find. When Pit dies, he becomes an angel and ascends to heaven. But Pit was already an angel, so I guess this makes him angel squared? The music is different and there are new enemies like bats, bees, and feet. Oh man! There are also new bosses. The first one is a minotaur, the second one is complete nightmare fuel, and the third one is a snake. Once you kill these 3 and get the sacred treasures, Palutena will say you need more training and can only use the wings of Pegasus. Because go f*** yourself, I guess. Then Satan himself shows up, calling himself Orcos, and turns Palutena to stone. This is the final level and you don't need to deal enough damage now, you just have to get to the end. There is a fun trick you can do in this level. During an endurance test, you can simply fly above the moving boards, claim one of the sacred treasures, use a key to get back into the room, and do it again to get all 3 sacred treasures. Now it's time to kill Orcos, and unlike Medusa, he's actually hard. During the first phase, you just avoid him and keep shooting him until he transforms into a being of true evil. So what now? It's a difficult process of avoiding a fireball blast, avoiding tail spikes, and then avoiding bats just to get 1 hit on him. Do this enough times and he dies. Palutena saves, says good shit, and that's the end of the game. Kid Icarus of Myth and Monsters was better than the original, but I don't know why. The game was a lot easier, but towards the end it gave me the difficulty I was hoping for in a Kid Icarus game. The level and world layout are just copy and paste with only the bosses being different. The humor was exactly the same and the game was shorter. So why did I like this one more than the NES Kid Icarus? I imagine it has to do with the fact that I can go down the screen for once. An attempt at telling the player a story and a fantastic final boss. The music was also on par if not greater than its predecessor, but the reason I think this is better than the NES Kid Icarus is because they truly made an excellent sequel by fixing the things that were wrong with the NES and keeping the rest the same. Kid Icarus of Myth and Monsters did what not many sequels can do and built upon the previous game, fixing the issues and then giving the players a new experience. Now I just have to wait for a 3rd entry. They're not making another one, huh?